Good evening, Pony families. My name is Rob Bach, and I'm the principal here at Stillwater Area High School. I appreciate you taking some time to learn about the virtual offering of Pony Possibilities here. Pony Possibilities really is an opportunity for you to learn primarily about the registration process. But more than that, we want to give you an introduction to who we are here at Stillwater Area High School, kind of give you a sense of how we do business, so that you know what to expect for your ninth grade student when your student comes in as a ninth grader next year. As we talk about registration and talk with you about kind of how to get signed up for classes, but maybe even more importantly, like what kinds of things to consider as you're signing up for classes so that you know what classes to choose. I'm also going to talk with you about two other programs. You don't need to sign up for these or anything. This is just kind of, again, a part of who we are. One of those is called the Pathways program, because the more you understand about the Pathways concept, the better position you'll be in to select great courses for your student when they come in high school. And then I'm also going to talk with you about something called the BAR program. Again, not something that your students need to sign up for. This is something that just happens automatically. These are things that we as our staff do behind the scenes for your student, but we'll give you some insights, again, just into the kind of school that you're looking to send your student. I know school today is not like way back in the Stone Age when I went to school, where you pretty much just went to whatever school happened to be nearby. School is different today. And as parents, you have a choice with where you want to send your child. And I recognize that, and all of us here at Stillwater Area High School recognize that. But again, in going through this presentation today, I hope to give you a sense of why I think Stillwater Area High School is a terrific choice and absolutely the best choice that you can make for your student. For starters, I could rattle off 100 different things that make Stillwater Area High School a great school. There's many different pieces, several of which are listed here on this slide. We've all heard about our music program. We have amazing publications. We have an unbelievable special education department for students that have special needs. We have an engineering curriculum. There's just a million different things. And on top of that, it's not just the quantity of programs that we have here at Stillwater High School, but really it's the quality. What I am impressed with, this is my 8th year here as the principal at Stillwater. And what just amazes me every single day is the level of expertise that our teachers have in all of these areas. One big message that I would want to impart on you as you start and begin your introduction to Stillwater Area High School. One kind of key idea is this. I will fully acknowledge to everyone that Stillwater Area High School is a very big school. That was one of the first things that I noticed and was even concerned about when I came here to Stillwater 8 years ago. I know that sometimes being a really, really large school carries some kind of preconceived ideas or maybe even negative connotations around that. And it's okay for parents to be concerned. It's fair to ask questions like, how do I know that people there are going to take care of my child? This is such a big place. Is my child going to get lost in the shuffle? And I guess the reason I want to take a minute to respond to that is what I hope that you understand is I feel very, very strongly that there's advantages to small schools and advantages to big schools. But our philosophy at Stillwater is that if we're smart and intentional about how we do business, I believe firmly that big schools can replicate some of the advantages of small schools, but small schools simply cannot replicate the advantages of big schools. And the advantages of big schools, again, are this wide variety of programming. The bottom line is, whatever your child is interested in, chances are there's a program for it here at a large comprehensive high school like Stillwater High School. And not only is there a program, but A, like I said before, it's going to be good. And B, that means that there's going to be other students that go to school here that have similar interests to the same kinds of things that your child does. That provides some built-in ways for your child to engage with their high school, and that is absolutely a positive wherever they wind up going to school. So again, the important thing is do we at Stillwater, because we're a big school, make those intentional efforts then to make sure that we can replicate the advantages of small schools? And I believe that we do. And one way that we do that is by breaking things down into a little bit smaller groups or smaller units and providing each student that comes to school here with a student center for support. We refer to those centers as pony centers. There are 4 different pony centers located throughout the building, and each center is broken up by alphabet. So depending on what your student's last name is, that's what determines what student center they go to. Each student center consists of people that are there specifically to help your student. There's 2 counselors, a secretary, and an assistant principal in each student center. And so again, depending on what your student's last name is, these are the people then that would be primarily helpful or primarily responsible for helping to provide a welcoming environment for your child. These are also the people that can kind of serve as contact people for you as parents, especially during this registration process. Counselors are your absolute best friends during registration. And so again, you can see, depending on your child's last name, you can see what your child's counselor or who your child's counselor is. Each of our counselors is listed on our website, and there are links there by which you can contact us, shoot us an email, give us a call, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have about the registration process. But I'm sure that after this amazing presentation that I take you through, of course, no one's going to have any questions whatsoever, hopefully. As we go through, I'm going to start with a little bit of just the logistics. Let's talk kind of the nitty-gritty of what you need to know for how to get in and register. And then after we do that, I'll talk with you a little bit about just some of the things that you want to keep in mind and the philosophy behind what classes you choose for registration. For starters, I'm going to encourage you to go to the Stillwater Area High School webpage. And when you go to the webpage, Stillwater Area High School, you can see that on the upper right-hand corner, there's a menu function. And if we click on menu, there's all kinds of different options. And one of those options is learning. And I'm going to click on the plus sign next to learning, which is going to give me a couple of other options, one of which is curriculum and registration. That's what we want. When we click on the registration link, if you scroll down, you're going to see there are 2 pieces that should really catch your eye. The first is right here. This is a step-by-step ordered process for how you go through and register. First and foremost, you want to review some of the graduation requirements. You want to know ahead of time, how many English classes do I need in order to graduate? Hint, the answer is 8. How many social studies classes do I need? How many math classes do I need? How many science classes do I need? All of those things. Those are good to know even on the front end, because you want to make sure that you have room and are starting to plan really not just for 1 year, but really let's start planning for all 4 years to make sure that you have room to get everything in that you want to get in. Once you've reviewed the graduation requirements and you know what kinds of things are needed to graduate, we're going to start by picking some core classes. Core areas are areas of English, social studies, math, and science. These are classes that are required for graduation and your child has to sign up for in 9th grade. Once we get through the required courses, then it's time to start thinking about electives. And with electives, the world is your oyster. And what we have here at Stillwater High School is a program called the Pathways Program. What we've done is we've made a real concerted effort to make sure that all of the classes that we offer are linked in kind of a thematic approach. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Let's kind of take you through step by step some of the other pieces here to make sure that you understand the core pieces. And then we'll get into all of the opportunities that you have for electives. The other piece that I want to draw your attention to, besides the 5 steps here, and if you take that in concrete sequential order, you'll be in good shape. But the other piece is this document over here, which is called our registration guide. If you click on the link down there, this registration guide is your one-stop shop to everything that you would ever want to know about the registration process. It's a lengthy document. It's about 24 pages, but don't be overwhelmed. It's got a ton of different resources and information to help you make sense of the registration process and what kinds of things you want to sign up for. Again, if you go through the first couple pages, this is page number 6. It breaks it down for you, the 5 steps that we want to go through, really plain and simple. Number 1, again, let's just review all of our requirements. Number two, we're going to start with some core areas. Number three, we're going to start to think about what do you want to do? What kinds of experiences and what kinds of things does your child like? And then we're going to start to link that to some electives through our Pathways program. That's really the process right there. In a nutshell, because as I said, that document is actually really big, but don't be intimidated. Don't worry and don't feel overwhelmed by everything in that document. What I'm going to do here now for you is try to simplify this down for you a little bit to try to eliminate some of the guesswork. As we said, you want to start with some of your core areas. Your kids need to sign up for courses in English, social studies, science, and math. That's 4 courses right off the top. At Stillwater High School, we run a 6-period day and we run a semester system. That means that there's 2 grading periods. That means essentially that you and your students are going to be signing up for a grand total of 12 courses, 6 courses each semester. And again, 8 of those courses are going to kind of be chosen for you. So even though this document is really, really big, and even though there's tons of opportunities here at a comprehensive high school, it shouldn't feel too overwhelming, because here's some of your basic choices right off the bat. In English, what you need to know is that your child has essentially 2 options. Our standard English class is called English 9. That's the college preparatory English that all of our incoming 9th grade students are prepared for and would sign up for. The other option available to them is English 9E, which stands for Enriched. You could think of Enriched almost as kind of like an honors type of course. Students that sign up for English 9E, the Enriched course, are probably going to be involved in a little bit more reading. They're probably going to be involved in more writing. They're probably going to move at a faster pace. They're going to cover a little bit more content, and they're going to go a little bit more in depth. It's a more rigorous course than English 9. They still cover the exact same standards, these 2 courses, but again, English 9E is going to be a more rigorous experience. And so if your student wants that type of experience, honors type of student, 9E might be the kind of course that you want to sign up for. In social studies, you have a similar choice because there are 2 opportunities for incoming 9th grade students. Our standard incoming course is called Global Studies. It's 2 semesters, so semester A and semester B. For students that want a more rigorous opportunity, there is one AP course available to them in 9th grade. AP stands for Advanced Placement. And the one AP course that a 9th grade student could take is in social studies, and that's AP Human Geography. AP Human Geography, the difference here, very similar to the difference that we talked about with English. These 2 courses are going to cover the same standards, but students that sign up for AP Human Geography are going to cover more content. They're going to move at a faster pace. They're going to go more in depth. There's probably going to be more reading. There's certainly going to be more writing, and there's probably going to be more homework associated with an AP class. Again, those are conversations that you want to have with your student to find out what are they comfortable with and what kind of load are they able to carry. In science, there's actually 3 different opportunities that your student can sign up for. The standard course for incoming 9th graders is physical science. There's 2 different physical science courses available to 9th graders. Again, there's your standard physical science, and then there's also another opportunity in physical science called STEM physical science. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And basically what that means is that the STEM physical science course is going to be a more mathematically based physical science course than general physical science. If your student really, really is into science, really into math, STEM physical science might be a good opportunity for them. If your student's not super into science, not super into math, and just wants to get their science kind of out of the way, physical science might be the route to take. The one other potential option for incoming 9th graders in science is chemistry. Chemistry is open to students who were accelerated in science in middle school. And if your child happened to be in the LEAP program, then that means that they already got physical science. LEAP, again, stands for life science, environmental science, and physical science. So if your kid was in the LEAP program, they've already had physical science, that's the student that wants to sign up for chemistry. If your child didn't participate in the LEAP program, then again, you're looking at physical science or STEM physical science, depending on what kind of experience they want. Oops. In math, math is a little bit more wide ranging. There's more opportunities in math because this is going to be dependent on what math class your son or daughter is in currently right now in 8th grade. For kids that are in geometry right now, that means you're going to sign up for Algebra 2. If your child is in Algebra 2 right now, that means they're going to sign up for Algebra 3. If your child is currently in an Algebra 3 class somehow, because they're way advanced, that means they might be ready for something like pre-calculus. But there's a scope and sequence of all of the math classes that's available to you. And again, you just kind of go in lockstep order, depending on which class your child is in right now, you sign up for the next one. Once you've signed up for those 4 classes, that leaves room for 4 electives. And again, I'll talk about the electives here in a minute, but this really is where you want to start thinking about what kinds of experiences and what kinds of things does your kid like? Does your kid like music and like participating in music? Does your kid like participating in art? Does your student like participating in STEM and the environment? Because this is where our pathways concept begins to come into play. And I'll talk about pathways in just a little bit. But the bottom line is you have room to sign up for 4 different electives. To go in and register then, if you remember on the website, this is what it looked like where we had our registration guide. But after you've had a chance to go through the registration guide with your student and talk through what English and social studies and math and science class they want, and you've started to talk through maybe what electives they want, now you're ready to actually start picking out these classes and registering for them. There's a link here that says register now in PowerSchool. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that link right here, right now. And if you click on this, register in PowerSchool, and you can also get to this website by going to stillwater.powerschool.com. That'll take you to the login page. You'll get a parent sign in and a student sign in. I always encourage people, especially if you've got your student handy, use your student sign in. Your kids know what their email address is. They know what their password is by now because they use it every single day almost in school. And so if you click with your student sign in probably won't even ask you for that because your student's computer has done that so many times, it'll take you right to your student's page. And here's your student's page in PowerSchool to handle the registration process. What we're going to do is we're going to look over on the left-hand side where there's several tabs, one of which says class registration. We're going to click on class registration. And as we do that, we're going to see that we have all kinds of things here. And this was from an earlier exercise that I did. But in each different area, you'll see that there's an area for English language arts, an area for social studies, an area for math, and going on down for science, electives, et cetera, et cetera. What you're going to do is click on the pencil icon that's over in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click on that for English, you'll see, here's my 2 opportunities that we just talked about. We can sign up for English 9A and B. Again, A is first semester, B is second semester. Or we can sign up for English 9 Enriched, A or B. Let's say that coming into high school, I'm not interested in the enriched piece. I just want general English. I'm going to sign up for those 2 and click OK. That gives me those 2 courses. In social studies, same concept. Let's click on the pencil. The opportunities that are open to me are AP Human Geography or Global Studies. Maybe I want to take an AP course. There's an opportunity to get some college credit associated with AP, so I think that'd be a good thing to do. So I'm going to click those 2 courses and click OK. In math, when you click on your opportunities, again, here you're going to see a lot more opportunities because, again, this is going to be dependent on whatever class your student currently has in 8th grade. In math, because there's so many opportunities, you can see there's actually 2 different pages worth. These are all listed alphabetically right now. If I click on the second page, I'll see that there's things like geometry, things like pre-calculus, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say that my student, your 8th grade student, is currently in geometry. That means that coming into 9th grade, they're going to want to take Algebra 2A and 2B. Let's click OK, and those are my 2 courses there. In 9th grade science, same deal. let's say that I want to take just regular physical science. I'm not really a science and math kid. I didn't do the LEAP program, so chemistry is not an option to me. And since I'm not super into math and science, I just want to do physical science. We'll sign up for those and click OK. The next piece then is your electives. And again, for electives, you can click up to 4 electives. And with electives, again, here is where you start to see there's a ton of opportunities. Again, this is what that big registration guide is designed to help walk you through. So here, there's not just 1 or 2 pages, there's actually about 10 pages worth of electives. That's why you want to take your time going through the registration guide to learn all of the different pieces that are open to you. As a helpful hint, on this page, up in the top, where it says right-click on this link and open a new tab, if you click on this link, it will take you right to the registration guide. So again, if you want to toggle back and forth so that you can go through the registration guide to get some of your questions answered regarding what classes are open, there's a link that's right there for you. But again, we need to select 4 different electives. I actually had 5 selected in here because I kind of screwed up the first time that I did this, but there's 4 different pieces. What you can do is when you go through the registration guide, you'll notice that every course has a course number. If you click on the heading for number, it will arrange all of your courses by course number. So for example, if I want an art course, like say drawing, art courses tend to start with the letter A, so A540 and A542. That might be a good way to do that if I click on by number. If you click on the heading for course name, this will put courses into alphabetical order. That's why you start to see things like advanced video production, American Sign Language, animal care and management. Those are all pieces that are listed out alphabetically. Certainly, you can also use the pages down here at the bottom. Again, now that I'm listed out alphabetically, if I were to click on page 7, that's going to take me into things that start with M, O, P. So again, if you're looking for a painting class or something like that, you can do it alphabetically or by course number, either one. Once you select those 4 courses, then your schedule is pretty well full. In this case, I decided I wanted to take 2 drawing classes and I wanted to take Spanish as a world language. The next thing that we're going to ask you to do is we're also going to ask you to select 5 alternate courses. These are courses that you want to select just in case for some reason we can't get you in to the courses that you selected as your primary electives. So if drawing fills up, or if we're not able to offer as many sections as we want of drawing, we might have to wait on drawing. We need to know what other classes would you be interested in taking. Once you have 12 courses filled in and 5 alternates, you're going to click Submit, and that will send the courses through to us here at school, where we're going to start to try to put some of those together to create a schedule for you. Once you click Submit, you can always go back in and revise your courses. You're not locked in or etched in stone for forever, so feel free to revise that if you need to, even after you've gone ahead and clicked Submit. A couple of important things to know as you go through the registration process, and this is one of the reasons why it's important for us to talk through this. First and foremost, please know the selections that you make are important. These course requests have to kind of be considered binding. And we take the information, all of the information that you and your students submit to us through this registration process, and that's what we use to make very, very important decisions regarding scheduling and even regarding staffing. Once we start building the master schedule, it's just like constructing a gigantic Jenga tower, and we can't take pieces out once we've already built things in, because that's become part of our foundation. Case in point, if all of a sudden people want to choose different classes and say they want, all of a sudden there's an influx of people that decide that they want to take an art class, we might have needed to know that over the summer so that we could hire an additional art teacher, or so that we could post for that in the spring. Those are all decisions that we make, again, based 100% on the registration that students give us. So please, please, please take this process carefully. treat it with importance, because we certainly do on our end. Second piece is, please understand that course selections are requests. Some students might not be able to receive their first choices due to enrollment or schedule conflicts. Sometimes students like to sign up for specialty courses. And in a specialty course, we might only offer one section of it if there's not an awful lot of kids that want that course. But let's say 30 students sign up for a section of animal care and management. All right, we run a section of animal care and management. Let's say that your student also makes a highly selective orchestra, and there's only one section of orchestra. We do everything we can to try to make sure that that one section of orchestra doesn't conflict with the one section of animal care. But sometimes those things happen, and your student has to make a choice. That's where the alternates come into play, and why it's very important for them to have that. Sometimes there are situations too where if only 8 students sign up for a course, that's just simply not enough students for us to be able to run that course. Again, we'll try it again in a different year to try to run it. But again, that's where we would need other ideas as to what to schedule your student in. That's why it's important to include 5 alternates. Another thing to know is that your teachers might change from one semester to the next. At Stillwater High School, we will do everything we can, especially for your 9th grade students, to try to make sure that your teachers map from first semester to second semester. We believe that relationships are very important. And once teachers get to know students and have established a relationship with students, we want to do everything we can to try to keep that intact. With that said, we can't always promise that that's going to happen. Again, depending on some of the things that your student has signed up for, there may need to be some adjustments in teachers from semester to semester. Another important thing to note is that we cannot and will not accommodate teacher requests. A lot of times students coming in or parents coming in, they want their student to have Mr. Jones. I've heard that Mr. Jones is really, really good, and we really want to stay away from that Mr. Bach as a science teacher. We heard awful things about Mr. Bach, so we don't want to have him, but Mr. Jones is amazing, so can you please get my child into Mr. Jones's class? I think his teaching style really works with my students' learning style. I appreciate that, but I just need everyone to understand that unfortunately, those are not sustainable ways for us to build a schedule. If every single student wanted Mr. Jones and wanted out of Mr. Bach's class, we wouldn't be able to, Mr. Jones would have classes of 100 students in it, and that doesn't work. I want to assure you, all of our teachers at Stillwater High School are terrific teachers. They will all find ways to work with your students. So please just know ahead of time that we cannot and will not make a schedule based on teacher requests. Then the last thing is use the tools that are there. Again, if you remember on the registration page on the website, I showed you where the registration guide is. Where there are also course descriptions. There are videos of every department that can kind of explain to you what these courses are and what they offer. Use those things. The more you understand about those courses, the better position you'll be in to make good choices for what you register for. And then lastly, we would just ask that everyone please complete this registration process by Sunday, January 31st. We will begin turning around the information as soon as Monday, February 1. So please, please, please have your registration selections entered into PowerSchool by Sunday the 31st. Next, I want to talk with you just briefly. You've heard me mention this whole concept of pathways a little bit. What pathways really is, again, is this has become a part of our DNA and part of what we want the high school experience to be for your students. We made a real concerted effort about 3 years ago to align all of our course offerings, not just by some generic department and say we have a bunch of science offerings or a bunch of English offerings. The bottom line is, we want the courses to have relevance for your students, and we also want those courses to provide opportunities for them. And so what we did is we surveyed our students and worked with them to find out what kinds of experiences resonated with them. And what we did is we started organizing our courses around 4 different themes. One theme being arts and communication, one theme being business, one theme being health sciences and human services, and one theme being STEM and the environment. And each of these is what we refer to as a pathway. Within each of these pathways, there's all kinds of connected programs and services that allow your students to advance almost through a curriculum, if you will. There's introductory level offerings, there's intermediate level offerings, and there's advanced level offerings in each of these pathways. If your student is a music student, music comes into play through the arts and communications pathway. This is how our registration guide is organized. And so rather than just picking a class and looking through a laundry list of 100 different classes, the conversation to have with your child is, what kinds of things do you like? If your child is interested in business or thinks that they might want to pursue some kind of a career in business, there's a whole entire business pathway that lists out all of the different courses and how those courses might fit together to provide your student with an experience that they'd feel really, really good about when they're done here in high school. That's the way the registration guide is laid out, and that's really the way the process should work, is think about it in terms of experience, not just isolated individual classes. The more you understand that, the more the registration guide will work for you and make sense. Lastly, as you consider what classes to sign up for with your student, I always encourage parents to take into account balance. Think about what kinds of things your student is interested in outside of school. If your student plays a sport or is involved in theater or is involved in the music program, all of those things create demands on students' time. And while it's great to think that we want to be in this advanced class and that advanced class, at the end of the day, this becomes a math problem too, where there's only so much that we can fit on the plate at one time. Different students are capable of handling different amounts of balance. What I encourage parents to talk about with their students is make sure that your students are pushed a little bit. Part of this process is designed to get them out of their comfort zone a little bit, but we don't want to do it to the point where that begins to start to affect mental health and they get out of balance. You know your child best. Have some conversation, but you might also have to be the governor or the regulator, because a lot of kids come in and they start biting off more than they can chew, and we don't want to set them up for a situation where they begin to stress themselves out too much. The last piece that I want to talk with you about is the BAR program. And again, the BAR program is not something that you need to sign up for. It's not something that you register for. This is something that happens behind the scenes automatically with every incoming ninth grade student. This is one of the primary things that I mentioned earlier when I said, if big schools are smart and intentional about how they do business, they can replicate the advantages of small schools. And this is part of Stillwater Area High School's effort to make sure that we live up to that promise for you. The idea is that we believe that every single student coming in deserves a first-class education, and we can deliver that by building on the assets that those students bring to the table. The only way we do that, however, is if we know your students and establish a relationship with them. But if we do that, that means that we get to know your students for the talents and the assets that they have. The more we're familiar with that, the more we utilize that throughout the course of the year to reduce the risk factors that can stand in the way and get in the way of student success during high school. What we do and the way we do this is we organize students around teams in their core area classes. There's 3 core area classes that we utilize for BAR. That's science, English, and social studies. If I am Mr. Bach, science teacher, once again, and I'm just going to pick a round number. Let's say that I have 30 students in each class, and I teach 5 classes during the course of the day. That means that I see 150 students during the course of the day. That's a pretty typical standard average load for our teachers. What we do is we organize students into groups or teams so that somewhere there's an English teacher and there's also a social studies teacher that has the same 150 students that I have in all of my classes. It doesn't mean that your student is going to have the same classes with the same kids every single time, but it does mean that there's 3 teachers who are familiar with a cohort of students. Those teachers have intentional meetings where they sit down to discuss what they see with those students. They discuss what they know about those students so that we have an opportunity to build upon the assets that every student brings to the table, and again, try to reduce the risk factors that might stand in the way of success in high school. The other thing that each of those teachers is going to do is they will infuse some social emotional curriculum at points in time throughout the course of the year to help facilitate that relationship building. They do that through something called I-Time, where there might be one day a month where the science teacher teaches a relationship lesson, not so much related to science, but starts to talk about organizational skills or other success things that are needed in high school. Those are the pieces, again, where we can build upon assets. And again, the more students understand some of those pieces, the more the risk factors do not come into play, and we help ensure our students' success. Again, our teachers are super intentional about this, and it requires a ton of meeting behind the scenes. We put a huge demand on our teachers' time so that our teachers get together to discuss literally every single student to make sure that every teacher on the team is familiar with what that student brings to the table. And again, that's part of how we do business here, and I think that your students absolutely are the beneficiaries of that. With that, that's all the information you could ever want to know and more, probably crammed into our presentation. I thank you for watching, and I certainly appreciate you investing the time to be able to do this. I recognize not everyone is able to attend in person, and not everyone is comfortable attending in person, especially in this day and age, and certainly we understand that. We want to offer as many opportunities as possible for people to become familiar with our processes and what you need to know. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at school. Again, your child's counselors are the primary people to help with the registration process, but certainly you can reach out to me or anyone else associated with Stillwater Area High School. We're here to help you. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and let us know what questions you have. Take care.